There is a kind of discipline that looks exactly like wisdom. You track every purchase, you cut what isn't necessary, you watch the number in your account grow slowly, carefully, the way you were taught to, and you feel a quiet pride in that, a cold kind of safety. But somewhere underneath the pride, something doesn't sit right because the number grows, and yet your life stays the same size. You are doing everything correctly, and still you feel like a man standing perfectly still while the world moves around him. You have been told your whole life that saving money is the responsible thing, the smart thing, the thing that separates the disciplined from the reckless. What if that's only half the lesson? What if the half you were never told is the half that actually changes everything? This is the story of a young man named Elias, and who thought he understood the value of a dollar until the day his grandfather handed him 3 coins and sent him into the village with rules he couldn't make sense of. What happened in the hours that followed didn't just change how Elias thought about money, it changed how he thought about himself. His grandfather's name was Silas, and Silas had seen enough seasons to know the difference between a man who was saving his money and a man who was saving his fear. Elias was 26. He lived carefully, while his friends spent freely on dinners and trips and things that wouldn't matter in 5 years. Elias kept a ledger, every naira accounted for, every unnecessary thing declined. His savings account had become a kind of temple to him. Every time the balance went up, he felt something settle in his chest, safety, control, but the sense that he was ahead of something, even if he couldn't name what. That summer, he went to visit Silas in the foothills, a man who lived simply in a stone house, surrounded by an orchard that had fed 3 generations of their family. On the first evening, Silas found Elias on the porch staring at his banking app in the fading light. The old man sat down beside him. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at the expression on his grandson's face, that particular tightness around the eyes that belongs to people who are counting their breaths to make sure they don't run out of air. Finally, Silas said, "You look like a full cup." Elias looked up. "What does that mean?" Silas went inside and came back with a wooden cup and a pitcher of water. He filled the cup slowly, right to the brim, until the surface tension held the water in a slight dome above the wood. "Look at it," he said. "Perfectly full, not a drop wasted. Is it useful?" "Of course," Elias said. "It's full of water." "No," Silas said quietly. "If I want to give you tea, I cannot. If I want to catch rain, I cannot. If something better comes along, there is no room for it. Because it is full, it is finished. It has no room for anything new." He set the cup down. "You are treating your life like this cup, so busy making sure not a drop is lost that you have forgotten water is meant to flow, not just sit." The next morning, Silas reached into his pocket and placed 3 silver coins on the table in front of Elias. "I want you to go into the village today," he said, "and I want you to use these. But there are 3 rules." Elias waited. You cannot buy something for yourself, you cannot give them to a beggar, and you cannot bring them back. Elias picked up the coins. "Then what am I supposed to do with them?" "Find a way to make them move," Silas said. "Invest them in a way that doesn't show up on a ledger." Elias walked into the village carrying the 3 coins and a growing frustration. He passed the bakeries and the tool shops. He saw things he wanted, but the rules forbade it. He saw people in need, but charity wasn't permitted either. To Elias, money had always served one of 2 purposes: you saved it or you spent it. He had no language for a third thing. He sat by the village well and watched the morning move around him. That is when he saw the girl. She was trying to sketch the travelers passing through, quick portraits in charcoal. But her charcoal had worn down to almost nothing, and her paper was the rough backs of old receipts. Her talent was obvious. Her tools were failing her. Elias took the first coin to the merchant. He bought the finest charcoal sticks and a clean stack of parchment. He walked back and laid them beside her without explanation. When she reached for her small tin to pay him, he shook his head. "I don't want a drawing," he said. "I just want to see what you can make when you have the right tools." The girl looked at the parchment. Then she began to draw with a speed and joy and ferocity that Elias had never felt in his own work, not in 6 years of careful saving, not once. He stood there watching and felt something he couldn't name. He spent the second coin at the inn. An old man had traveled from the coast to see his grandson for what he believed might be the last time. His horse had thrown a shoe on the road, and the blacksmith's fee, combined with a meal, was just beyond what the man carried. Elias didn't hand him money. He walked to the blacksmith directly and paid for the work. When he came back, the old man asked why he had done it. Elias didn't have a clean answer. He said something about a journey being worth completing. The old man looked at him for a long moment and nodded, the way people nod when they are receiving something they already knew was true and had simply been waiting to hear again. The third coin he spent at the bookseller's. He had remembered, walking through the orchard that morning, a comment Silas had made about an irrigation manual he had been trying to find for years, a specific text about managing water flow in the lower rows of an orchard. Elias had seen the spine of that exact book on a shelf earlier in the day. He bought it. Walking home in the late afternoon, coins gone and pockets empty, Elias waited for the anxiety to arrive, the particular tightness that came whenever he spent money, the mental arithmetic, the quiet guilt. It didn't come. If you have ever felt that strange peace that arrives when you spend money on exactly the right thing, not for yourself, not out of impulse, but out of genuine purpose, save this video, because that feeling is a compass, and most people ignore it their whole lives. Your saved videos are in your library. This framework is worth returning to the next time you feel the weight of a financial decision you don't know how to make. Silas was waiting on the porch when Elias returned. "The coins are gone," Elias said, "and I have nothing to show for it in my pocket." "Is that true?" the old man asked. Elias sat down. He thought about the girl's face when she picked up the new charcoal. He thought about the old man's nod at the inn. He thought about the book under his arm. "No," he said slowly, "it's not true. Tell me what changed." "I stopped looking at the price of things," Elias said, "and I started looking at what they were for, what they could set in motion. The coin I spent on the paper wasn't a loss. I was watching someone's talent come alive. The blacksmith wasn't the cost. It was a man's journey made whole again." He paused. "I don't know how to explain it exactly, but the money felt like it meant something for the first time." Silas nodded. "That is the lesson," he said. "Money is a language. If you only learn to say one word, save, you will have a very quiet life. But when you learn to say invest, empower, move, create, the world begins to speak back." Here's the thing: most financial advice never reaches. The problem isn't that you spend too much. For many people, the problem is the opposite. They have been so thoroughly taught to fear the outflow of money that they have accidentally choked off every inflow of opportunity. They were taught by a system that rewards compliance, not creation, that produces careful workers, not bold builders. And the result is a life that looks responsible from the outside and feels airless from the inside. Saving against fear is not the same as saving toward purpose. When you save because you are afraid of what happens at zero, that money is already spoken for. It isn't building anything. It is standing guard, and every crisis that arrives will find the door because you built the account for crises. But when you save towards something specific, a skill, a decision, a version of yourself that doesn't yet exist, Ragia, the money has a different relationship with your choices. It answers to the direction you gave it, not to whatever shouts loudest. Silas had watched men spend their whole lives running the first kind of account. He had watched them die with numbers their families spent in a year, and nothing in the world that showed a life had moved through it. Every coin you save is a seed, he told Elias the next morning. Walking the lower rows of the orchard, a seed kept in a jar stays a seed forever. It only becomes something when you are willing to lose sight of it in the dirt. Elias looked at an old apple tree beside them, gnarled wide, heavy with late season fruit. In 10 years, Silas said, the man with the jar has a dusty seed. The man who planted has shade and fruit and wood enough to build a room. You have not been saving money, Elias. You have been saving fear. This is where most people think they understand the lesson. They feel the clarity arrive and they think, I need to invest. Put the money into something that grows. Let it compound. Stop being so conservative. And that is true, in a narrow way. But Silas shook his head when Elias said exactly that. That is the surface answer, he said. Nadar, most people who invest are still just saving with extra steps, still building a bigger pile for later, still measuring wealth in what they have, not in what they have become. He stopped walking. If I took everything from you today, the account, the ledger, all of it, who would you be? Elias didn't answer. If the answer is a man with nothing, Silas said, then you haven't saved a thing. But if the answer is a man with skills and judgment and the knowledge of how to create value from what's around him, then you are wealthy even when your pockets are empty. That kind of wealth doesn't show up on a statement, and it cannot be taken. Here's the thing that will stay with you long after this video ends. The cost of something is never just the price you pay. It is the life you had to trade to earn that money in the first place. If you save 10,000 by working years at something that diminishes you, by never taking the course, never making the trip, never sitting at the table with people who would have changed your thinking, that 10,000 is not profit. It is what you accepted instead of a life. When you spend money on something that gives you time back, that makes you more capable, that connects you to people and ideas that compound into years of return, you are not spending. You are buying back what the earning cost you. Saving is defensive. It protects what you have. But there is an offensive game too, and most people never play it because they were never told it existed. Elias had been a brilliant defender of a life that wasn't worth defending. Small, cold, controlled, safe from loss, and safe from growth in equal measure. Think about the person in your life who is doing this right now, working hard, saving carefully, and somehow still going nowhere. The friend, the sibling, the partner who can quote their account balance but couldn't tell you what they're building toward. Send this to them, not as a lesson, as a question you want them to sit with. That question this video has opened about what it means to invest in yourself rather than just in assets, about how the identity you build in the years before the money arrives is the thing that determines what the money eventually becomes. That is its own full conversation, and it is the one we are having next. 3 months after he returned to the city, Elias went back to see Silas. He hadn't become wealthy. He hadn't solved anything dramatic, but he had made one specific decision about one thing he was building toward. He had named it, given it a number and a timeline, and when the next hard month arrived and the account pulled at him, he had not touched it. He sat at the kitchen table and told the old man. Silas listened, said nothing for a moment. Then he looked at his grandson and said something quiet. Now, the money knows where it lives. Before you go, think about what you have been saving that you now realize you should be investing, not in a stock, in yourself, a skill you have been putting off, a decision you have been waiting until you could afford, a relationship you have been too busy protecting your resources to build. Write it in the comments, because the answers that appear there always reveal something, not just about the people writing, but about how many of us are carrying the same hesitation, waiting for a permission we were always allowed to give ourselves. The water was never meant to just sit. Let it flow.